Alright guys, you'll have heard me mention in previous videos that we're going to twin turbo the 350 at some point, and this video is just going to be a kind of like introduction to just like explain exactly what we're going for, the way we're going to do things, the reasons for doing it, and then there'll be some other videos coming out. There'll probably be quite a lot of videos kind of documenting the whole process. Now, just to give you an idea of timescales, first of all, we're not going to be doing that much on it very soon. Tomorrow I'm going to start on upgrading the fuel system, some like kind of prerequisite stuff, but after that it's just going to just get mapped, and then we're not going to do anything else for quite a while, because there's not really enough like of a gap between any of the drift cup rounds where I can be taking the engine out and doing all the stuff that we need to do to put a twin turbo kit on it. So it's probably not going to be until like just after drift cup season finishes, which is like August or September. So there's going to be quite a long wait, but like I say, some of the prerequisite stuff, some of the supporting mods will be done pretty soon, so there'll be videos on that. But like I say, this video is just going to be a sort of introduction. Just it'll be nice to look back on this at the end of the project and kind of see like if we did meet a lot of the goals and stuff and did things the way that I planned to. So this will just kind of give you an idea of what we're going for. All right, so let's start off with why we're going twin turbo. Originally the plan was, if I wanted a bit more power, because these are only like 260, 270 brake standard, which is enough, don't get me wrong, like you can drift, and I have been for the last year or so. But it would be nice to have a bit more, especially if we start like going up into BDC and stuff. We're going to probably need a bit more than 270 brake. So that's one reason for doing it. Another reason is, although I just realized I never really finished my original point, which was the original plan, if I wanted more power, was to go supercharger. But then I looked at the costs of the supercharger kits, and it's like £6,000 or £7,000. And I was looking at that price and thinking I could make my own twin turbo setup for that. So that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, the other reason for doing this is just kind of for like a big project to like sink my teeth into. Like most modifications you do to a car, it's like you buy the parts, you unbolt the old part, you bolt the new part on, job done. Like I know a lot of stuff is a bit more complicated than that, and it never goes as smoothly as that. But essentially that's what it is, you know. You can get it all done in less than a day most of the time once you've bought the part. And it doesn't usually take that much sort of research to figure out which parts you need and all that sort of stuff. So I wanted something that would be a bit more of a project and that would take a lot more time, and and also would teach me things. Like I've never set up a twin turbo kit before. The turbo on the 86 was done by Fensport, so yeah, I basically just paid them to do it all. Whereas this time I want to do it all myself. And carrying on with that theme, I'm not just going to buy a twin turbo kit. Like there's an APS twin turbo kit, there's other twin turbo kits for these cars. I'm not just going to buy one of them because one, they're way more expensive. They're like 10 or 11 grand or something stupid. And two, I want the experience and like to learn from it by doing it myself. So that's another reason, is just a big project to learn a lot from. And I've definitely already learned a lot. This, like going back to the idea of like most mods take like a day or whatever to do, I've already spent weeks and weeks like just researching stuff, ordering parts, like checking things fit, like doing so much research on this already. Like it's literally taken longer to do this, and we haven't even started yet, than it has to do any other mod or everything else combined probably. So yeah, it's kind of living up to what I wanted, which was to have something to sink my teeth into. So it's definitely living up to that so far. Now I mentioned that we're going to try and like do this ourselves. When I say ourselves, it's basically me and a bit of help from Bryn. But yeah, basically I'm going to be trying to make as much of it as I can myself. So like the exhaust manifold that goes into the turbo, going to make myself, wish me luck. Going to make all like the oil lines and everything up myself. The intercooler, I'm going to like buy a core and then weld my own end tanks on. So there's going to be a fair bit of like fabrication work, which I'm not very good at, but again, this is kind of a learning project, so it's more to practice. There's going to be a fair bit of planning and research, and then a lot of like crossing fingers and hoping that stuff works, I guess, when it's all done. So it's going to be a very nerve-wracking experience, and we've also got a lot of challenges to overcome, like fitting stuff in that engine bay. I'll film something in a minute and like show you the actual challenges, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of issues making stuff fit, but that's part of the fun. All right, this is where we start to run into problems. Shout if you can see a space to fit two turbos and a load of intercooler piping in here. because I can't, and that is a slight issue. Obviously we can get rid of this, but there's still not really enough room for even one turbo, let alone two there. There's very little space down the front here. Like, you see the gaps between that pulley and the radiator fans, tiny. There's just no room to add anything extra. And somehow we've got to fit, like I say, two turbos, loads of pipes going from the turbos to the intercooler, and from the intercooler to the intake, blow-off valves, wastegates, although on the turbos we've got internal wastegates, so that's not an issue. Although they do still take up space, just to make the turbo a bit bigger, having the actuator on the side. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff that we've got to finesse, I guess. That's not the right word. That's not the word I'm looking for. But you know what I mean. A lot of stuff we're going to have to cut and shape and customize to make it fit. I think in the APS kit they supply you with, it's either a custom coolant bottle or a custom washer bottle. I don't even know where the fucking washer bottle is on this. Where is the washer bottle? Must be down there somewhere. It's like under the headlight, I think. You can tell how much attention I pay to the washer fluid. So yeah, there's some like custom stuff that we're probably gonna have to make things fit, which I don't mind. Like, I'm kind of looking forward to that aspect of it, really, to be honest. But it's still going to be a bit of a sort of head scratcher figuring out how to fit stuff in here. So yeah, that's one of the main challenges. I'll lift the car up and show you underneath and show you kind of what we're planning to do, because there's literally no room for turbos in here. So we started looking underneath and found somewhere that we think is going to work. Right, we're now underneath the car, as you can tell, and the plan at the moment is to mount the turbos about here, like one there, and we'll be getting rid of these decap pipes and making our own downpipe that goes from the turbo to the exhaust. And obviously the main exhaust manifold will go straight into the turbo rather than going into here. The problem, well, I mean, there's several problems obviously, but one of the main problems is this exhaust manifold is like, it just goes straight from there, where you can see at the end there, that is literally the exhaust heads, exhaust ports, and it's just a cast manifold, I believe, that just goes straight to here. We want to have like a tubular manifold that has like 3 separate pipes coming out of the 3 sides, 3 on each side, and going into the turbo. But it needs to do all that. It needs to like loop around itself and everything, get into like a collector by about here, which does not give you a lot of room. And we've got like the steering rack and pinion and everything to get around. We've got like a clutch line on this side, which that shouldn't be too bad. This side I'm not so worried about. That side, I don't know how we're going to fit a turbo in there, really. So yeah, that's one of the challenges. The bad side of doing it like this, like the downside of having the turbo all the way back here, because this is like right next to the gearbox, is that you've got quite a lot of pipe going from the exhaust ports to the turbo. So it's like you're going to increase the lag a little bit there. In reality, I don't think it's going to make that much difference, but I don't know, we'll see. I've seen some other twin turbo kits that basically do the same thing, but they do use a cast manifold, most of them, to get it so it's really short, and like the stock one like this, so the turbo sits a bit further forward. Like I say, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be making our own exhaust manifold and everything, trying to anyway. And that's one of the main things that I think is going to be a challenge, is making a tubular manifold that fits in this space, because we've not got a lot of space before we hit the chassis legs, or whatever the fuck that is over there as well. So yeah, we don't have a lot of space to work with, and I'm not sure my welding and fabrication skills are going to be up to the task. Also, if we look around here at the front, obviously we've got the front of the engine here, there's not a lot of space for like intercooler pipes and everything to go, because the intercooler is going to be sat all the way over here, and we need to get 2 pipes coming from the turbos, which are going to be back here, somewhere around here. We need to get pipes, like 2-inch pipes probably, from there to all the way over here. And as you can see, there's not really a lot of space to work with. You've got a little gap here, which is not going to be big enough. I think in the APS twin turbo kit they get you to temporarily take the aircon compressor off, which I'm going to just take off, because like, as you can see, there's no belt on it. So I'm going to take that off completely. So that's going to free up a fair bit of space, because this whole thing is going to be gone. Hopefully that gives us an extra bit of room to maybe fit a pipe through up here or something, I don't know. And then on the other side, fuck knows, because there's an alternator in the way, the oil filter, like I don't know. I have no idea where we're gonna route the intercooler pipe, but like I say, other people have done it, so it's possible, but it's gonna be a bit tight. So that's some of the challenges that we're going to face. Other things to cover, I mentioned the costs briefly, we'll get to that again in a second. The other thing is that I'm not going for like a mad high horsepower setup here, okay? This is going to be aimed at going for the most responsive setup we can get out of a twin turbo system. So with that in mind, the turbochargers that I've got, two Garrett GT 2554, is that right? Yeah, 2554R turbos. I think everyone just calls them GT25Rs, to be honest. But yeah, two of them, which they're good for about 270 brake each. So combine it, you get about 540, 550 at a push, which is going to be more than I'm going for initially. Like I'm just going to go for like between 400 and 500 is my goal, okay? That's just a rough goal. If it ends up being like only just 400, that's fine, but make it as responsive as possible. That's the kind of key thing. And I know you might be thinking like, oh, well, why don't you just go supercharger if you want it to be responsive? But with the twin turbo, I mean, first of all, twin turbo is just cooler, isn't it? I know it's such a shit reason, but everyone prefers twin turbo, let's be honest. And also, like, it's kind of more future-proof. Like, if we want to increase the power later on, that's a lot easier to do. Like, you can essentially just stick some bigger turbos in or crank the boost pressure up or whatever. With the superchargers, you're kind of limited to, like, just sticking a new belt on, and then once you get to the different, like, the best belt, essentially, you're kind of stuck. You can't go any higher. So this is a bit more future-proof and just a bit more fun as well. I don't know, it's just more interesting in having a twin turbo versus supercharger. But yeah, bear that in mind as we're going through it. We're aiming for the highest response possible, not the highest horsepower. Secondly, the costs. As I mentioned earlier, when everything's done, I'll release a video just kind of detailing the cost of everything. So every single part that I've had to buy, just to give you guys a good idea of how much it costs to do this. And also, like I said, I'm just kind of aiming to beat or at least be around the same as the supercharger kits. So if the supercharger kits are 6 or 7 grand, which that does include the fuel system upgrades, so I'll factor that in as well. Then yeah, if we can do it for around that sort of price, then I'm pretty happy. So far, I've spent about 3.5 grand, and we've got almost everything. The only thing I've not bought yet is the intercooler core, the intercooler piping, like the metalwork, and that's about it, I think. Like some other little like bits of metal and stuff we're going to need to make exhaust stuff. But yeah, like not a lot more. Like I'm not including the cost of the engine internals in that. Okay, we are going to put forged internals in the engine. Not including those costs in the comparison against the supercharger kit, because you'd have to do that either way. Like if you're going supercharger or twin turbo, if you're going to be making above like 400 brake or whatever, you're going to need to strengthen the engine, ideally. So not going to include those costs. I'm also not going to include the cost of the upgraded ECU that I'm going to go for, because you can do twin turbo without that. I'm just going upgraded ECU because it makes it a bit easier. It gives us a few more options. Okay, so and again, that's kind of the same with the supercharger. You can do it on the stock one, but if you want to go upgraded to like a Link ECU or something, which is what I'm going for, you can. So I'm not going to include that cost, but I will list like the full cost of everything at the end, but like mainly I'm just focusing on beating the supercharger cost really. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like I've forgotten loads of things that I was going to say, but well, whatever. Can always like update you guys in future videos. Like I say, the next video that's going to be in this series of twin turbo videos will be the fuel system upgrades, which I'm about to start now, which I've never touched any fuel system stuff before, so this is going to be a learning experience as well. And then, yeah, it'll just be, after that, I'll be back to just doing drifting, drift cup, practice days and competitions and stuff. So yeah, that'll be kind of normal service resumed after that video. A lot of work ahead. There's a lot of stuff that I'm really like nervous about. Like, I think I already showed in the video underneath, like fitting the exhaust manifold in and everything. Fuck knows how we're going to do that, especially with my welding. Let me show you my only stainless steel welding that I've ever done. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? It's actually, to be fair, it's not bad. Literally the first time I've ever welded stainless steel. So I think that came out okay. But I didn't back purge it or anything like that, so it's probably not very strong. Which obviously we need to do everything properly when it comes to making an exhaust manifold, because if that starts cracking, we're going to have problems. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to learn, a lot of stuff to do, and like I said at the start, just get stuck into really, so should be good. But yeah, that's it. I will see you in the next video, which will probably be the fuel system stuff. So I'll see you there.